Welcome to the 87th episode of the Real Life Diabetes Podcast with today's guest who braved the Appalachian Trail, Mike Joyce. If you're new to the show, welcome, and thanks for stopping by. My name is Amber Kluwer, and I'm the co-founder of the Diabetes Daily Grind and host of this, the Real Life Diabetes Podcast. I enjoy sharing my story and those of other people living their best life with this disease. Mike's motto, the only person who is stopping me from anything is myself, made him the perfect guest. Before we get started, I have a few quick announcements. Number one, today's podcast is brought to you with support from Courage Endures, whose mission is to help those with chronic illness navigate their lifelong journey through movement and community. They recognize, promote, and celebrate those who choose courage over challenge on their pursuit towards health, happiness, and optimal living. They're the perfect partner for this. If you're interested in getting involved or sponsoring an episode, please contact Cynthia, Director of Partnerships and Development, at cynthia@diabetesdailygrind.com. Number two, I pumped the brakes a little bit on this episode because, drum roll please, I'm partnering with the National Park Service and a number of reputable brands to get people living with diabetes on the trails. We're all outside these days. We're trying to be more active, and this is an exciting partnership. But I want you to get involved, so I'm pitching a contest. What hashtag would you use to encourage Diapeeps to hit the trails? The person with the most creative hashtag will win a lofty gift of goodies to help you live your best active life. Please shoot your ideas via social media or to Penelope at diabetesdailygrind.com. I can't wait to see what you come up with because I have come up with everything I can think of and it's kind of ridiculous. Number three, if you would like to see me interview Mike, head on over to the DDG YouTube channel. I literally giggled throughout this episode. You'll soon learn why. Number four, please click on the Amazon banner on diabetesdailygrind.com before ordering. It doesn't cost you a thing and throws a little change my way. Number five, stay engaged. Love, like, share, and comment on all things social media. Sign up for the e-newsletter, leave an iTunes review, and subscribe to the DDG YouTube channel. That's a mouthful. And you know what? You can always contact me directly. You can email me anything. I'm here for you, Diapeeps. I can be reached anytime at amber@diabetesdailygrind.com. All right, enough rambling. Let's get started.
I'm alive. Yes, I'm alive. One minor inconvenience, a little thing called diabetes. It's a daily grind. It's a daily grind. Grinds and grinds and grinds.
Hey.
Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sorry, my name is Paid to Party. It's my trivia name.
I was thinking when that popped up, I was like, do I expect this? That's hilarious.
Yeah, my girlfriend's dad's boat is called Paid to Party, so we named our trivia team Paid to Party.
I like it. It's creative.
Yeah.
So welcome to the show. And thanks for taking time, obviously, to make it on the Real Life Diabetes Podcast. So where are you calling in from?
I'm in Sarasota, Florida.
Nice. How are things going there? You guys in lockdown?
Kind of. I don't know. I work in a restaurant, and we just reopened, and I'm not going back because I was just here for season, and season is over. So there's not really much money to be made since all the snowbirds went home, I think, or I don't know.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's weird. It felt like the weather was nice and there weren't people here,
right?
Which is the opposite of what's normally happening. So it was kind of nice, but the beach is closed. There wasn't a lot to be able to do. So,
right. Well, yeah, it's crazy times for people. All people.
Where are you?
I'm in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
And I've been I chose. I've quarantined pretty seriously for the past, I'd say, now 8 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. And just not out of fear, but I don't need to be anywhere. I work from home anyway, so that's kind of nice.
Okay.
Ventured out a couple of times and had happy hour on a friend's porch or whatever, but I will say that doing the podcast and some of the other things, the ability to connect with people has been kind of nice, because I always think about when I sit down with a guest, it's like we're having a drink together or something. So
Right.
social hour than anything else. So I want to just jump into a couple of things, and
Okay.
feel free. I have no real agenda, just a couple of talking points. I always start with diagnosis story. Everyone's is similar, but not the same.
Yeah. I was 9. It was Groundhog's Day. So I've been reliving Groundhog's Day by trying to get it right every day. Not really being successful at it, but sometimes being successful. Still have diabetes the next day. So, but yeah, Groundhog's Day of 96. So 23 years, 24 years now.
What month was it? Do you remember?
What's that?
Oh, Groundhog's Day. Duh. Jeez.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
February 2nd.
February 2nd.
Yeah, I didn't really, I don't know, I don't remember too much of like fear or anything, except like I heard the word die and saw my mom crying, and I was like, oh, am I going to die? And that was cleared pretty quickly that wasn't the result of diabetes necessarily.
And you weren't in DKA, right?
No, I wasn't. My blood sugar was like 500. My cousin, who was in his 20s, was diagnosed. I think he was like, he was diagnosed as type 2, and then the medication stopped working. He is in fact type 1. So my mom had like kind of an idea of like the symptoms. So for 500 is a high blood sugar, but not necessarily at diagnosis, especially back at that time. I think we caught it pretty early. I had lost some weight, but I wasn't like, I don't think I was necessarily in DKA. I spent about a week in the hospital. I think it's like 5 days, 6 days.
Did you leave?
Yeah, it was.
Did you learn how to give a shot on an orange?
Yeah, they did the orange. I couldn't leave until I gave a shot to myself, an actual shot, drawing up insulin. And I didn't really, I liked the hospital. It wasn't that bad. They had a Super Nintendo, so my dad brought like Super Nintendo games from home so I could play video games while I was in the hospital. It was better than school. So, well,
okay, and it's so crazy. There's two things on that. Like, kids that are diagnosed today, God bless them, they get a backpack, their parents are there maybe for a day, and then they send them along. And I'm like, I can't imagine that, because I was in the hospital for like almost 2 weeks. I wasn't in DKA, but for me too, even though I didn't want to be there, I had roller skates. I would skate the floor, and there was a lot of good. I got toys all the time, because they would bring by the toy cart. So yeah, it was a horrible situation, essentially, but I guess I made the best of it. So I'm glad.
Yeah, I think they did a good job of making it like relatively comfortable for me, right. Being 9 years old. Like I didn't really know I don't think I fully grasped the foreverness of it.
Right.
It was just like, oh, this is just what's happening now. Like, and I didn't see myself as different from other people initially. Like,
right.
That comes with time. So I just kind of thought this was something that like, oh, everyone has their weird thing that they have to go to the hospital for at some point.
Do you recall having to give your first shot? Do you remember the feelings there?
No, I didn't really. I never really had a problem with shots, so I never really was apprehensive to do it. I kind of thought it was cool.
That is so
I thought it had this I don't know if it made me think I was brave or something
right.
Oh wow, I'm a badass. I can take a shot. And I thought my friends would be more interested in it than
so you're
anyone ever is.
Gear for questions.
Yeah, I was look at how cool this is. I have to take a shot.
I was the exact opposite. I kept everything pretty hidden. I just, whatever, unless I had to drag stuff out. But,
and then like six months later, I went to camp. Like my parents sent me off to diabetes camp. So like everything was still fresh. And like, so then like immediately that summer, I was in a cabin with like 8 other kids who I'm still, in touch with today.
That's cool.
I stayed with one while I was hiking the Appalachian Trail this summer, and caught up with an old counselor while I was hiking, and like different people from camp I reconnected with on this like last adventure I was on.
Yeah, we're gonna jump into that because I have read a couple of your blogs, and man, I'm not a camper or a glamper. If I were to go either way, it would be glamping. And then let's not kid ourselves. And I joke about stuff like that, but like what all you have to do to prepare, like, well, I'm not even going to go into that yet. I'm not even going to go. So family history of a cousin.
Yeah, my cousin, and then it like, I don't know if it actually skips generations, but I hear a lot of times that it tends to skip generations. Mm-hmm. So like my mom, and it's all from my mom's side, and she and her brother and sister did not have it, but she had an aunt who had it.
Okay.
And I think an uncle, one of them died because they stopped taking their medication because some chiropractor said that like
they could fix them,
could cure them. Yeah. And then the other one had a child, which is pretty amazing because that was probably back in the 70s or something. She
right.
had a child, and I don't know much more than that about it.
Did she live through it?
Yeah, she lived through. I don't know when she died. She's not alive anymore, but she lived a relatively normal life expectancy.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you were diagnosed so long ago, so what did they put you on immediately? Was it NPH and regular?
Yeah, regular and NPH, 2 shots a day,
okay.
And the exchange diet.
I don't even know what the exchange diet is. I mean, maybe that's...
Well, it was like, because we were on the food pyramid, so like it was it was basically starches, dairy, as in like milk or yogurt,
right.
and fruit. Those are like the 3 things that you eat that could or could not that would cause your blood sugar to something to happen to your blood sugar.
Oh, okay.
So you got so many of each exchange, and if you didn't want milk, you could have extra potatoes, or you could have like more another piece of fruit or something. I don't know. It didn't work. Like, let's get real.
I'd be curious what your A1C was through those years.
I don't know. Probably in the 8s. I don't know. I've always had relatively good A1Cs, as in like never double digits, and
right.
Like I've always been pretty well controlled. I went on a pump in like 1999, early 2000s. So I at least had the safety net of that
right.
for high school and college. I demoed the 507C and then went on the 508 mini med, and at that time it was just like mini med or Desitronic were like the 2 pumps out at the time.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so pump. Yeah.
Stayed on. Well, because I was going to go to probably 3 or 4 shots a day. I think Lantus was just coming out, so like I had done the gambit of different long actings, Lente, Ultra Lente, whatever else was out there, just trying to like keep it at 2 shots because doctors were like, right. and still are, stuck in the way of doing things the same way for decades. So they wanted to stay on the 2-shot thing, and it so they were trying different long acting insulins, trying to avoid having to go to multiple daily injections, even though multiple daily injections is probably the best way to manage without a pump.
Right.
And so I didn't try Lantus or like any of the basal insulins until I was probably in high school, and I just wanted a pump vacation while I was at summer camp. And so like we were going to a water park. I was like, I don't want to wear this like weird box to make it waterproof. And like, that you didn't even know if it would work. Like,
it's terrifying.
Yeah. And so I was just like, I'm going to take a pump vacation. And then I was just like, oh, wow, I don't have to wear a pump and I can have. And so then I stayed on the pump through college. And then when I graduated college, I went off the pump because I didn't have good insurance. I graduated college with a liberal arts degree in the recession in 2009. There were no jobs. So like I didn't have insurance. I couldn't get pump supplies. I had some like Medicaid through Pennsylvania. And then when I left Pennsylvania, like most states don't have very good assistance for diabetes. So I was like, well, Lantus worked when I was at a water park. Let's see if I can make it work now. And I never went back to a pump. I'm not going to say I liked Lantus, but I never went back to a pump. And I really have no intentions of ever going back to a pump.
Why?
They work really well until they don't work, and then things go bad quickly.
Yeah.
I had a lot of issues where like pumps like the tube would slip out. I wouldn't know. Pump failure. Yeah. I'm in the middle of working and my blood sugar's 400, and the extra site change that I had used 2 days ago, I hadn't replaced yet. So now I'm throwing up in the parking lot trying to get home in time to get insulin on board. And so God. And having no long-acting insulin on board just is really frightening to me. The idea of not having that is.
I can't imagine. Like, I've never been on a pump, and I say that often. Like, and because I'm comfortable with multiple daily injections, but I remember whenever I asked my doctors, I was like, "Listen," and I was in college, just shortly out of it. I was like, "Listen, I've been putting on a lot of weight. Hello, college life." I was like, "Is there anything? Can we change my insulin? Is there anything out there?" And so they switched me to Lantus and I don't know, Humalog or Novolog at the time. And I remember thinking, I'm like literally shaking my fist and like being so pissed. I was like, I went from 2 shots to now 4 shots plus a day. And I was like, damn, this makes me angry. But it made a world of difference. And I lost like 25 pounds in months. I mean, it was crazy, the difference there. And it was, and that I started to have to count carbs. And I was like, damn, that's another thing I got to think about. But at the end of the day, it was the right choice. I don't meet many people that are still doing multiple daily injections by choice, and I love all the technology that's out there, and it's really helping, especially the younger people. But
well, I think a CGM, like I was a couple of years ago, I hit the point where I was like, I might have to go back to a pump because I can't get this right. Traceba hadn't hit the market yet, and just Lantus I was starting to split my Lantus dose to try to get it to like peak at the right times because I was either going low overnight or like and like going high at different times, and it's not a flat line no matter how much they want to sell it as such. And I was just getting really frustrated, and I didn't have a CGM, so like I really had no idea what was happening between going to bed and waking up in the morning, and getting a CGM really like. My goal with multiple daily injections was to like have a A1C below 7. Like that's all I wanted because that's, the goal that they seem to keep shooting for is that 7 mark. So I was like, I want to do that. I want to prove that I want to prove to my doctor that it can be done without a pump. Right. Because everyone's like saying the pump is the only way, And I don't really believe the pump is the only way to do that. And I was able to get my A1C down to like 6.6.
That's great.
Without a pump. And I don't know if that was before I went on the Dexcom or after I went on the Dexcom that I was able to do it. But it was like that totally changed.
Yeah.
The CGM changed everything for me because it allowed me to see how food
Oh, yeah.
impacted my blood sugar, when it impacted my blood sugar, like figured out when insulin actually started working instead of the 15 minutes that they say it works, and really an hour later you're still not seeing, I still wasn't seeing a curve on my CGM. So it got me to think about more things, which is the overwhelming part of diabetes. But like when you have, it just it opened my eyes to like timing doses, timing like based on when I was eating, and
it makes you look at food differently too, because things that you would have never maybe thought of, or stress. I mean, like when you see the stress, like shoot it straight up. And we're going to go into, because everything we just talked about is obviously a part of hold on. I could have 17 podcasts about your life with diabetes, seriously. And so there may be a follow-up episode if we don't get into everything today, but you drastically changed your diet.
Yes.
And I read something, and I can't quote it right now, but it was like you went from couch potato to like running. I mean, it was like ridiculous. So I want to know your motivation for that.
Okay. Well, I was really struggling with weight gain. As I was saying, I'd been able to get my A1C down to like 6.6 on multiple daily injections because of the CGM. But like I didn't realize I was doing things like feeding my insulin. Like I was having all these low blood sugars, and I like had to eat because I've had a horrible relationship with food. I don't know any diabetic that has a good relationship with food, because we've constantly had to measure and count everything that we put in our body.
You feel guilty if it's not the thing that you should be choosing.
Yeah, and then like when you see what it does to your blood sugar, you feel guilty again, or you feel guilty because you didn't do the insulin right. Or you just and it's just I was tired of doing that. I was gaining so much weight. I was like pushing 300 pounds. I think I was like 275, maybe 280 at my highest. And I was just like so uncomfortable, and I didn't realize how uncomfortable I was. I didn't realize how many headaches I was having from just like fluctuating blood sugars. Even though even though my A1C was good, like I was still having the ups and downs, because it's more of an average. And so like I focus more on standard deviation now, like with my CGM, because I want to tighten those peaks and valleys.
So for people that don't understand or know the term standard deviation, how would you describe it?
It's statistics, which I'm not that great at, but it's my understanding of it is like the number is how high and how much above and below the average you are 2/3 of the time.
Right.
Or something like it's like 60% or 70% of the time you are like, my goal is to be say 90 to 100 with a standard deviation of about 20.
Right.
Which would put me somewhere between 70 and 120 most of the time.
Right. What's your goal? Blood sugar?
It depends on what I'm doing.
Oh, that's a good point.
When I'm sitting around the house doing nothing, I like to be between 80 and 90. If I'm going for a long run, I'll push up to 140.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really like to be over 140. I don't really like to be under 70.
Yeah.
75 is probably when I start to like
feel it.
Feel I get hungry. Usually,
you feel it any other ways? You get shaky or sweaty?
Depending on how quickly I drop.
Yeah.
Yes. If I'm dropping quickly, I'll get. Most of my blood sugars drop when I'm like running.
Yeah.
And so like I'll be feeling really good, and then all of a sudden I'm like walking a lot, and I'm like, what is going on? And like my CGM hasn't caught up, but it's starting to dip, and I'm probably in the 70s.
Right.
Even though the CGM's saying I'm 90, and like, so I try to eat glucose tabs while I run. As long as my run's over like 3 or 4 miles, I'll need it. If my run's less than that, I'm fine. Sometimes I'll just try to eat like peanut butter before I go for a run. And
so
if it's like a really long run, because then I did like 12 miles yesterday and ate a big spoonful of peanut butter before I walked out the door. I went up to like 160 during my run, but by the end I was down to 110. And
and I know I read that you also have like a little honey thing in your back or whenever you're running, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll bring honey with me on like ultra marathons or other. I experiment with different things.
I think that next time you say the word, when I'm running ultra marathons, you need to flip your hair. Not many people can say that.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of walking in an ultra marathon. Like I didn't realize that like, people talk about running like marathons in general. And unless you're like competing at a competitive level, most people are walking at some point.
Right. So
I fall apart at like mile 18, no matter what. Like it doesn't matter. I'm going to be walking at some point at mile 18 because I'm hungry. My stomach doesn't want food.
Right.
My blood sugar is probably doing something that is unexpected because I'm at mile 18 of a run. And no matter how much I practice, your body doesn't get used to that. Or at least my body doesn't. It still hurts.
So you went from couch potato to this like ridiculous athlete. So what was that? I mean, you just flipped the switch and decided to start like jogging one day or what?
No, I it was all dietary. I had my blood sugars in good control, but I didn't have my diet in control.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to figure out how to do that. And I had heard a lot of people talk about like the Dr. Bernstein, like low carb, extreme diet. And I was like, well, there's no reason not to try, at least like look at it and give some tries to it. I think he can be a little bit strict. I think some followers of him can be a little
in your face.
Yeah. There's only one way to do it, and there's multiple ways to do his techniques, and it's not 100% my way or no way.
I think that's also diabetes management, because what works for somebody might not work for the next person. So you have to adjust to what you need.
But I think no matter what, like the less carbs that like his whole premise is like, it's called the rule of small numbers, and the less carbs you take, the less insulin you take, the smaller the margin of error you're going to have when you're making corrections. And that totally made sense to me. And so I started reducing my carbohydrates. Like I had said, I graduated college with a liberal arts degree, and I worked in a kitchen. So I learned how to cook a lot of food. So like I love cooking. So for me, cooking low carb was like an experiment of how can I make mashed cauliflower taste better.
Right.
Because I would just want mashed potatoes, but like mashed potatoes my blood sugar doesn't really like, I can see the CGM's effect from mashed potatoes. So let's see how I can make cauliflower not taste like cauliflower. And it involves a lot of cream cheese and sour cream, and you can do it, but it's not
the same.
It's still high calories. So like that was a thing I had to slowly work towards. But I immediately like felt like it was just like this, when my blood sugars like leveled out and I got off the roller coaster because I was eating low carb, I like didn't realize how cloudy my mind had been for decades.
Right.
Like I didn't realize how like, I mean, my body hurts a lot because I run and I do crazy things, but like I didn't realize how like uncomfortable I was physically from like just being bloated from taking so much insulin and like and eating when I wasn't hungry, and like as my levels leveled out, like I realized I could eat when I was hungry instead of eating because I took insulin which I made a big insulin change to the inhaled insulin
Right.
when I did that, which also allowed me to not have to feed the tail of insulin, which helped for weight loss too, because I wasn't like following up a meal with like a low blood sugar 3 hours later.
Right.
I had a lot of problems with that with injected insulin, so I was the inhaled insulin, Afrezza, really helped me to be able to just like focus on dosing insulin for like the now, instead of having to like
plan the
next 5 hours or so, because Novolog is what I was using, and it had a pretty long tail on it.
Well, again, so, for people too, I mean, you know, how quickly things react. And I just learned about insulin production, and it's crazy. The chemical makeup and how it all works. And I'm not going to pretend like I know, but it was fascinating to learn about. And I've tried Afrezza one time, maybe twice. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And nobody's paying me to say that. Like, I was just floored by why, and I hadn't heard about it before.
No, they don't pay me to say anything either.
They should.
Yeah, I've been trying to get them to pay me to do something, but it's hard to get a job in the medical field with a liberal arts degree.
I've got an environmental geography degree. Let's not kid ourselves. Like, there's no jobs there, and they don't even offer that degree any longer, which is, so be it.
Yeah. So but no, I just really believe in the product, because my entire life I've been chasing an immediate, like something that can immediately fix my blood sugar.
Yeah.
And I ended up stacking a lot of doses, having a lot of low blood sugars, because I was so impatient for the fast-acting insulin to slowly start working, and that Afrezza showed me that insulin can work within it shows up. It starts to bend in three dots of my Dexcom graph,
which is 15 minutes, right?
Which is 15 minutes. Like, by the 20th minute, if it's still going up, I know that I should probably take some more. And sometimes I overdo it, but most of the time it comes back down, and it's done working in less than 2 hours. So
that's the
even
bonus.
If I do take a little too much, I know it's not going to be like a 4-hour ordeal of eating.
Okay, so I wanted, because you're hilarious. Going into, you lost 100 pounds, right?
Yeah. So my diet changed a lot. I lost 30 pounds in probably 3 or 4 months. And then I was like, oh, maybe I can try running again. And I was trying to play soccer when I hit my high weight, and I was just like, I'm going to hurt myself. I weigh too much. My joints can't handle this. 30 years old, trying to play soccer again. And so then I started trying to do some conditioning, and I started running, and realizing that I could run first thing in the morning, not to have to take all this insulin or eat food, and I could just run. And then I wouldn't eat until I got hungry. So it wasn't oh, I finished running, I have to eat now because my blood sugar is going to go low. I didn't need to eat because I wasn't hungry. I'm usually not hungry right after I eat, or right after I run. I'm right after I eat, I'm not hungry either. But right after I run, I'm usually not hungry. My stomach's I need a minute. So I started doing some intermittent fasting, just naturally. And I think the higher fat and protein diet kept me satiated longer. And as I coupled that with running, my the next 60 pounds just pretty much fell off of me.
That's crazy.
And now I've just been quarantined, gaining some weight back, but
yeah, I've been eating more carbs, and I'm a low carb person. And have been for ages.
Yeah,
I can eat popcorn. I can eat this. Yeah, probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I've been slipping a lot more carbs into the diet lately, just because of laziness mostly.
Yeah.
Convenience, which is funny because I have all this time being on quarantine to
Right, to do
to like cook food, but I'm like, I just want to eat something now.
Right. Yeah, I've cooked so much lately. I was thinking about it today. I'm thankful to have food and all the things, but it's just like, God, one more thing I've got to think about. What am I going to prepare? And then there's the prep. There's all the things that go into it. Then you lose one ingredient that doesn't work, and it doesn't matter. Okay, so I want to transition into you. I don't even understand how this is possible. You hiked the Appalachian Trail. I had to look it up to see exactly where that started and where it ended. I also had to look up a number of terms because I didn't know what SOBO and NOBO were.
Okay.
So, I mean, I learned so much. So what, will you get up one day and like, I'm going to do this? Like,
so there was a trip every year at camp that we were in New Jersey, and there's the trail goes through New Jersey, and it's funny because like the section of trail when I hiked on it, just like, I don't know, what was that, probably September or October. I hiked, it was probably September. I blinked, I was at the place where they had dropped us off, and then I was like, I don't even know where we stopped hiking because I think that I passed that within an hour of walking. Like I was like, oh wow, I used to hike this like multiple times a year at camp, and then because I worked as a counselor there, so I went on this trip all the time. So like that kind of planted the seed for the Appalachian Trail, because like just this idea that this trail near camp goes across the whole country.
Right.
And I just thought that was really cool. And then when I was in college, I did a class, my writing seminar class for my undergrad was on the Appalachian Trail. And so we had to take a 4-day trip as a class on the Appalachian Trail where we hiked Maryland. And that was like the first time I did a backpacking, like a multiple day trip. And I did that with a pump. And I was like, oh, wow. Like,
it's a lot you got to take.
Pump supplies take up a lot of space, but I want to do this. But the fact that I did this small trip makes me want to do a bigger trip.
Right.
And so then I put it on the back burner because I graduated college and I thought I was supposed to find a job, and I never really did find a job. Certainly not any that I loved enough to stay. And I had some money saved up, and I
want to do this.
I'd lost enough weight that I was like, oh wow, my backpack fully packed is still on me is still less than when I weighed at my highest point. So I should probably try to do this now.
That's what I was going to ask. So how much did your pack weigh?
It weighed about like my base weight, which is weight without food and water, was like 17 pounds. And then with food and water, I'd probably be pushing 30 pounds.
That's nothing.
It felt like a lot. And there were times where it was like so dry that I was carrying probably a gallon of water on me, especially through New York State. And so at those times I was probably pushing more like 35. I wouldn't be surprised if I hit 40 pounds a few times. But yeah.
Where's your insulin? Because what were you taking for basal?
I was taking Tresiba.
So how many pens did you take?
I had two on me at a time. So I had the one that I was using and the one that would be next up. Tresiba, I don't know if people know, but it's a 60-day shelf life once it comes to room temperature, instead of 30 days like a lot of other insulins. So right. I usually use a pen in just under a month. So like, and then I had a fridge stocked at my parents' house that they would ship more insulin as I needed. I also had prescriptions that filling prescriptions rurally at a different pharmacy every time is difficult. But I made a point to do it a few times just because I was paying for insurance and I still wanted to fill my prescriptions while I could. So like I carried, I always carried more insulin than I needed. which is kind of what we do. But I never ran out. I had one close call in Virginia where I ended up having to stay an extra day in town because they ordered the wrong insulin, and it was like a weekend, so then they wouldn't get it till Monday.
One thing after another. It's like everybody's worst nightmare.
Yeah, so it was it was okay. I had some in a box that was mailed to me, but it wasn't going to be enough to get me through the Shenandoahs. So I had to wait an extra day to like get that. But Afrezza says it needs refrigeration. I leave that stuff in my car and it still works fine in the heat of Florida. So it's a powder. I don't really see how it can really.
Well, they have to put so many like restrictions, or I don't know what the words are, but I'm not gonna whatever.
Yeah, they say like it says something ridiculous, like 3 days or 10 days or something. Like I don't know how they get how liquid insulin has this 30-day thing, but like a powder that's dehydrated and
right
in a airproof pouch is humidity does clump up in humidity. So once
Sure.
I break the seal on the blister packs, I could see it clumping up and that being an issue. But
okay, so CGM, what CGM were you using through this hike?
I only used 2 CGMs. I started with the implanted Eversense.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, oh, I'm going to be swimming a lot. This is going to be great. Like I can just take this off and go swimming and throw it back on, and I don't have to worry about losing. It has to charge. You have to charge it every day, which became a hassle. But I had a charger to charge my phone every day, so it wasn't that big of a hassle. The real problem was, if the temperature dropped below 60, I'd get these no reading, too cold errors. There were more times that it was giving me bad readings than it was giving. It probably gave me good readings more than it gave me bad readings, but there were too many times that it wasn't working well.
Inconsistent.
That when it was time to get a new sensor, I was like, no, I'm just going back to the Dexcom. And I had some G5s stashed up, so I used those.
Everybody's got their stash, hopefully.
The battery didn't last very long on the transmitters, but I was able to finish the last three months of my hike with the G5.
How long did this hike take?
It took 5.5 months. I started July. Well, I technically started in May because I did the Smokies so that I could skip them in December, because I didn't really want to go into the Smoky Mountains in December because they're some of the highest mountains in the Appalachians, and I didn't really want to be in the snow. So I did those in May, and then July 10th I started in Maine and hiked.
So I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, the fluctuation in temperature, highest to lowest, during that 5.5 long trek?
I'm sure it broke 100 degrees at times in August. New Jersey and New York State especially was just brutally hot. Connecticut was really hot.
Were you worried about ticks?
Yes, but I didn't have any issues with them. But yeah, that was probably my biggest of all wildlife that I was most afraid of going on the trail. The smallest creature was the tick. That was probably the biggest fear that I had, because bears are more likely going to run away from you,
but a tick's going to jump on you.
Tick's going to take a ride, and but yeah, Maine had the most bugs, and I treated my clothes in a spray that lasts for 5 or 6 wash cycles. So by the time I got out of Maine, most of the mosquitoes were gone, and I just think that was probably the worst area for bugs. And I wore long pants even though I wanted to be in shorts, just to prevent, just to take that extra layer of protection. And
did you only have one pair of shoes?
No, I went through 5 pairs of shoes.
Okay.
During the hike.
So you just picked them up along the way.
Yeah, Amazon's great.
So you can just
I ordered things on Amazon and they just drop them at hostels or hotels. Like I put the hotel address. And, so they were pretty great. Yeah.
Did you primarily hike alone, or I know you picked up a couple of people along the way?
No, I hiked with my girlfriend for most of it. She started northbound in April, and so like I hiked with her in the Smokies, and then in July she jumped up to Maine and we hiked together. And then when she got back to Virginia, she left and I finished on my own. Kind of, she came and helped me, brought some support with a car because it got really cold. Like you asked what my coldest temperature was. I think I saw 12.
Ooh.
12 degrees. I know it was in the teens a couple mornings in the top of some of these mountains, and it just, November got cold. Like end of October and November got cold, really fast this year. There was like almost no fall. It just like went right into winter, and I hiked for like 5 days straight through snow. It's only like 4 inches or so, but like it stayed cold after it snowed, so there was snow on the mountains for multiple days.
Okay, so all the diabetes supplies. I mean, I just cannot imagine. So, and I mean, I know when I go for a walk in my neighborhood, I've got like Starburst in my jacket or whatever. Like, how did you?
I had 3 fanny packs.
Okay.
I had two. I had a pack that like clipped onto my belt buckle from my backpack. And then I wore a fanny pack as well. The fanny pack I wore carried all my insulin. No, carried my low treatments. Then yeah, I had like Skittles, Starburst, some peanut butter cups, whatever candy I had picked up in town at like a Dollar General. Then the next the pouch on my backpack was like all my insulin, and then I had this chest pouch that was just snacks for the day. So like that was like, I mean, diabetes or not, I need food all day.
Right.
Like when you're walking like that, it's just like I ate constantly. But the extra fanny packs was mainly for they were my pancreas. One was for lows, one was for highs, and then in my backpack I kept more packs of the Afrezza. Yeah, but it wasn't really that much that I had to carry because I was dropping into a town every 5 days on average, 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
So like I really only needed to have enough insulin to get me to get me 3 to 5 days ahead. Right. And I was so like insulin was so potent because of how hard I was working. Like, I barely needed it. I actually ended up pushing my basal up and taking less Afrezza because the Afrezza was just like dropping me way too quickly. So like I was trying to eat lower carb on trail and just letting the protein like slowly raise my blood sugar and letting my
basal kick in.
My basal kind of keep dropping it down a little bit.
What was your A1C coming out of that?
6.
Which
was higher than going into it, but it was expected because I wasn't checking my blood sugar as often.
Right.
So like my blood sugar would, and if I was in the 150s, like flat, I wasn't going to do anything about it because if I tried to bump that down, could become problematic too quickly.
Right.
So like I accepted slightly higher blood sugars just because of
How hard
being in the backcountry. I just didn't want to have an emergency.
Did you, with your when you switched to Dexcom, were you using your phone or were you using a receiver?
I was using my phone.
Did you always have coverage?
No. But you don't need coverage for Dexcom.
Yeah.
But no, it was mostly only at the tops of mountains. Virginia, there was like never cell phone service. But I did have a service most of the time. Like I was like at least every 2 days I was able to like send out text messages, post on Instagram.
Of course.
Let people know I'm alive.
I was going to say, did anybody have your Dexcom share? Did you share your data with anybody during the trip?
No. And service was too inconsistent for me to do that. I've never shared my Dexcom. I actually use the Night Scout, and like I have it post, like it posts to a website that I can pull up and like get the information, because my phone is not supported by Dexcom, so I have to use other software. And yeah, so like I could share that website, but I wasn't I to save my battery life, I was on airplane mode most of the time. So
yeah,
if anyone was following me, they would have gotten old readings, or they would have started getting alarms because there was no reading, and like
yeah, I didn't want to freak anybody out.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you mentioned in one of the things that I read that there are plenty of people with type 1 that have actually done this huge hike. And that was really good to hear, I guess, or good to read.
Yeah, I met this one guy who, he's actually pretty cool. He now works in Colorado, I think, at like a ski resort as a paramedic. And before he went on trail, he was, I think, somewhere in Maryland as a paramedic, helicopter paramedic. Yeah. And we crossed paths and met on, I can't think of the name of the mountain. It starts with an M, and it's like the first mountain going northbound into the Whites. So it was like as I was leaving the White Mountains, he was coming into the White Mountains.
How did you know he had diabetes?
Because he posted about it on social media, and so like I followed him during his hike. So we crossed paths, and then like I think it was just after that, I was somewhere and we stopped at a shelter to just like, there was like to leave our pack so we could go climb up to a fire tower and take some pictures. And because my girlfriend had hiked northbound, we were passing a lot of people she had hiked with as they were making their way northbound. So like we ran into this person. She's like, oh, I remember you from probably North Carolina. And then this girl comes out and I see her pump tubing, and I was like, oh, no way, are you diabetic? And so then like we started talking about diabetes, and
it was like da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, and so like there's people every year that do it. And then like, when I dropped Jess, my girlfriend, off at Emmacola Falls, which is the state park in the south in Georgia, the Ridge Runner, which is someone who like runs between towns to make sure to educate people about how to like leave no trace and pick up after themselves and all that. He was doing the like check-in for people and who were registering their hike, and I see his pump tubing coming out of his fanny pack, and I'm just, so like after his thing, I was like, hey, is that an insulin pump? And he's like, yeah. And I was just like, oh, wow, that's awesome. He had hiked it like a couple years prior. And, he like gave me his email address. He's like, yeah, if you have any questions, ask me, like be in touch. So
that's awesome. When you see one of your people in the wild, I think it's hilarious because you're like, do I say something? Do I bring attention to this or not? I saw somebody on the beach one day and I was like, she had on a pod and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I saw someone in Rangeley, I think it was Rangeley, Maine. Yeah, Rangeley, Maine. And she had a pod on. And I was like, my girlfriend was like, oh, that's an insulin pump. And she's like, what? And then the girl overheard me saying, I was like, sorry, I'm diabetic. But it was like really cool because like then like they like because I think it's important to see like especially she was probably 12 or so to see like younger adults doing things that are like not just getting a job and going to work every day.
Right. The job's the job,
and we all need them. But like I don't know. Living down in Florida, I see so many people retiring.
Yeah,
and they spent their whole lives working, and I'm just like, I can't.
We're gonna find us both a job. This is my hobby, which started out blogging, has turned into a total whirlwind. But I want to say, because and we seek out people like you, and because we are an inspiration to, I'm going to say, for parents and for the younger people that their diagnosis is very different because they started with technology and the advancements in insulin therapy. But what you're doing is incredible, and it's one of those things about breaking the glass ceiling when you feel like maybe at some point in your life you are limited. And one of the things, and I don't want to end this conversation, again, we'll have a follow-up episode because I want to get into more details. But, one of the things I want to start interviewing or asking is, what would you tell your younger self?
Ooh. Wow.
Deep, right?
Yeah. I'd probably, so I love my parents. And they have given me nothing but support and like making sure I had the insulin pump when I wanted an insulin pump, and like always providing me the best care that they could find because that's what parents want to do. But when I hit the point in college where I didn't know what I wanted to study, and like I got the like. It was always, well, if you drop out, what are you going to do for your insulin? How are you going to get your insulin? Because at that point I was on insurance through college and stuff like that. And I would just tell my younger self is you're going to find it.
Yeah.
Like you're going to, like insulin is available. No one will let you go without insulin. Like no one in the whole country, like if I don't have insulin, it's my fault. Like I didn't do anything to get it because between all the medical companies have plans to help you if you are in a financial crisis. They will make sure that you get insulin. You might have to pay out of pocket to see a doctor, and they might have to mail it to the doctor, but like they'll make sure you get your insulin because you're a customer, and if you die, like they're out of customer. Like as morbid as that sounds, but like that's like they'd rather help you out so that when you do have insurance, you still use their product.
Right.
And there are your doctors have samples.
Yeah.
Like
I've had plenty of times in my life where I was uninsured and called my endo if I had an endo, or called the GP, or looked at other resources, and the things are out there, and I'm I will soon have a resources page that everything is like right there. So if you come into that moment, because it's overwhelming. I mean, especially if you're in fear mode and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of whatever insulin, you're in panic instead of let's be resourceful.
And it is scary. And I didn't realize how much I was not accepting of diabetes. Like, even though like I was managing it well, like I didn't realize how like much I was using it as an excuse to like, it took me until I was 30 to chase a dream of hiking well, I'm 33 now, but it took me until I was 32 years old, 33 years old before I hiked the Appalachian Trail, when it was a dream I had when I was 17. And diabetes was often a reason why I wasn't ready yet. And because I didn't know how I was going to get the medication. I didn't know like
how you were going to make it happen.
How I was going to like keep insurance while I was there. Like, there were so many like I don't knows that like, but I think I don't think diabetes should ever be an excuse, and it often becomes excuses in ways that I don't even realize. And like I didn't even realize I was making an excuse. Like I wasn't even realize I was using diabetes as an excuse not to do something until I was actually doing it, and I was like, oh wow, I didn't even think about diabetes today. Like I was thinking how hard it was to climb up and over this mountain, but like I wasn't like, oh man, am I going to have enough insulin when I get to 300 miles from here? Like that didn't matter. I have to put my next foot forward. My next step forward is really all that matters at that point. So I would probably tell my younger self that like there are ways to get the medication and the supplies that you need.
And I think also to that is that, and I say this often because sometimes you're ashamed or, whatever the circumstances are because you don't have insurance or need those things, but it's okay to ask for help.
Right.
I think that's one of the things that we're all a little trepidatious about. And we're here to lean on each other. And it's great that, and I will say, just like when you spot a T1D in the wild, and you say something, I think that there are so many groups out there that are supporting each other. Like, hey, man, I'm stressed. I lost my insurance. Does anybody have any extra whatever?
Yeah.
And, we're taking care of each other. And I think that's great.
I've had people help me out that way, and I've helped people out that way. And I know legally we're not supposed to, but.
Well, I'm working on that. Like when I interviewed the folks at Novo Nordisk in the past episode, why is it? I mean, it's a controlled substance, I guess, and you have to have a prescription, but I just think if I'd like to know, has anybody ever been arrested for giving somebody some insulin because they were out?
I don't know.
I hope not.
Well, I don't know. I think the United States Postal Service is a bigger drug dealer than we realize, than we give them credit to, between Colorado and insulin, Colorado marijuana market and the insulin that I've sent. Like, I think there's a lot of stuff that gets sent through the post office that shouldn't be sent through the
Don't
post
be
office.
leaking that because then it will stop. I need you to not say that out loud.
Well, you can cut that part out of the podcast. But no, I think they ask the questions they're supposed to ask when you ship something.
Right.
And I think there's an issue of like, is it going to maintain its temperature? Like,
oh yeah,
can't guarantee the potency of it if it's
sure.
been, like, if it hasn't been shipped in like on ice and
right.
So.
Okay, I want to end with this because I have to end this, unfortunately. Okay. You have a hike coming up.
Yes, I think so.
What is it?
Well,
if you don't want to talk about it, don't.
If everything opens, if the country opens back up and the national parks that this trail goes through opens back up, I'm planning to hike the Pacific Northwest Trail, which is 1,200 miles. It goes westbound. I don't know if that's WOBO or how they shorten that, but it starts in Glacier National Park and goes to the westernmost part of the United States, which is on the Olympic Peninsula, a little piece that kind of juts out on the beach there. And 1,200 miles, it's pretty much along the Canadian border. It's way up there. So that would be in July that I'd be starting based on snow melt.
Yeah.
in previous years, as long as the parks reopen and I can get permits to hike it. Because right now they're not working on opening the national parks that are still covered in snow because there's
no reason.
So they're not really talking about it. So it's a big if, but it's probably going to happen either way because I'm moving out of my house June 1st. So I'm
You're either going to be homeless or hiking a trail.
yeah. So which are basically the same thing.
So I don't know how you do all this. I got to say, I have a phone call tomorrow with the National Park Service with a couple of folks there. So I'm encouraging some projects. I want to bring you in once we solidify some things because I have to get clearance before I can say anything out loud. But exciting times, and I feel pretty confident you'll be hiking that pretty soon.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten I heard on one of your podcasts someone talked about a pack. Being able to get a pack.
I'm going to put that in these show notes, like how you can get your free, because for anybody that's listening, and I have not done this because I'm not a hiker really at all, is you get a free pass to all national parks if you have type 1 diabetes. And I've sent that to a couple of friends who have said it was easy breezy to do. And yeah, so did you pay for yours, or are you?
I don't have one. I didn't need one.
Okay.
On the hike that I was on because the Smoky National Park is the only free national park. So that was the one national park I went through. The other national park was the Shenandoahs, and it's free if you walk in. So since I was walking, I didn't have to pay anything. So Smokies, I had to pay the through hiking permit, which is like $20. But even if I had a national parks pass, I still would have had to pay that backcountry permit fee.
Right.
So I didn't do that. I was going to do this now, but parks are closed. So there's like a national monument in my town that I was going to go and try to get it there. But
I'll see. I'll get the details hopefully tomorrow, and I'll make sure that you get them so that you can get the free pass.
That'd be great because I don't know if I know you can walk in and do it. Like I've heard people doing that, but I just don't know if they're current because of the condition of the coronavirus. I don't know where I can go in and talk to someone and get one printed. So I might have to do it by mail or by internet.
How cool would it be to have like a day, or let's just say a time frame that we encourage all people with T1D to be on a trail, and just to, A, we all need to be active, but B, to support the National Park Service as well. Like, there's a lot that can grow from this.
Yeah. So. Well, I think so. And I think because they recognize us as, I don't necessarily feel disabled, but like, if I can get into a national park because of this condition I was dealt, like I appreciate them for being like, hey, you you got some bad cards. Let's give you a good one. So yeah, I think supporting the national parks, I think supporting all parks, state park shut down here in Florida for the quarantine, and it's been difficult for myself to get out to trails. Right. And I've been doing a lot of essential, non-essential travel because I have to drive almost 2 hours to get to an open trail. Yeah. It's essential for my own mental well-being to get to those trails. But I feel like I shouldn't be doing that when I'm driving through some of these really small towns. And I'm like, I would hate to find out someone got this because I decided to go through this town just to go get to a trail. So
are you going inside? So in these small towns, are you going into places?
I've had to stop and get gas. Right.
Are you wearing a mask?
No.
What?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go there, but
well, no, actually, depending on where I am, I always have a buff, and I'll throw the buff over my head sometimes. Okay. But like, I'm not like, I'm not as vigilant about it as I could be.
Get it together.
the numbers where we aren't really that. I don't know if it's the heat of Florida or something, but like we don't really have a lot of it here.
That's good.
It's really bad in Miami because it's like densely populated down there, but like around here, maybe like 15 people in the whole county have died from it, and like not that that's like, but like it's there. So for
I know what you mean.
There's 500,000 people here. Like it's
right.
Yeah. And we have a high percentage of elderly. So I don't know. I wear masks sometimes, but
just wash your hands. Whatever. Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you so much for taking time to be on the show. And like I said, I'll follow up with some stuff and all of the hike. If there's any information you want me to put in the show notes, whether that's your blog or how, your anything that would help somebody that's interested in hiking, period, not just a big trail like the Appalachian Trail.
Okay.
We want to encourage people to get out and be active and to feel comfortable with type 1 diabetes in that type of atmosphere. So because I feel like if you can survive, anybody can survive.
Right. I mean, I barely made it, but I made it.
You made it. You're going to do it.
I think anyone is capable of doing anything.
Yeah.
Really. Like the only person that ever stops me from doing something is myself. It's not.
That is so.
It's not really anyone else's fault but mine if I don't do something.
That's well said. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll be in touch.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I completely appreciate and respect Mike's passion to stay active. He's an inspiration to us all and has me taking it up a notch. What that looks like right now, I'm not sure, but yeah, I'll keep you posted. I look forward to hitting the trails, and maybe you could join me or someone else in the diet community. More details coming soon on how to connect, so be sure to stay engaged. If you or your organization, company would like to get involved in this movement, hit us up. Hit Cynthia up, I should say, at cynthia@diabetesdailygrind.com. She's really good about partnerships. Before I wrap up, I just have a few last-minute things I'd like to share. Number one, be sure to check out all the cool things soon to happen at Courage Endures. They really mirror what I try to do here at the Diabetes Daily Grind, and they're an incredible partner. There's a link in the show notes. So check them out. Number two, I want to thank the medical community, grocery delivery services, local restaurants, and fellow advocacy groups for providing valuable resources during this time. Thank you from the bottom of my T1D heart. Number three, don't forget to submit your Hit the Trails hashtag on social media and via email at penelope@diabetesdailygrind.com. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. And just remember, with the partnerships, no curse words, please. And finally, please continue to leave iTunes reviews and love, like, and share all things social media. If you want to contact me directly, I can always be reached at amber@diabetesdailygrind.com, and getting a message from you makes my heart happy and keeps the episodes coming. That's a wrap. Stay safe and get outdoors. Cheers to the highs and lows, everyone.